To hear him. All right. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
And I can hear you loud and clear too. All right. You'll have to position your camera better now because we're streaming you. So we are seeing you and we're hearing you too. Oh, I can see that you're lounging somewhere. I can see that the strike didn't touch where you're lounging. Nice to have you join us on the program today. I'm going to start from a point where maybe you didn't expect I'll go to, but I'm really interested in knowing. You had taken let me say your family had taken the federal government, let's tag it as that, to court as per the killing of your mom, and that her right to life was truncated, amongst other things. How is that case going right now? Is that case still anywhere at all?
Well, actually, it wasn't necessarily we as a family, we've taken the federal government to court because after the case was basically thrown out, those who were accused of the heinous crime were released from prison. We now decided that since they were acting on behalf of the states at the time, that the state should also have some kind of there should be some kind of repercussions to the states. Since we didn't get justice in the right sense, and nobody was held accountable, well, the states as a continuum should be held accountable for that loss. With that case is actually at the ECOWAS.
Yeah.
We're thinking that the ECOWAS
the ECOWAS court.
Yeah, the ECOWAS court. And it was, for me, it's more or less a way of trying to just get that point across that, justice delayed is justice denied. What she died, the way she was assassinated was very horrific. I'm sure if we don't address it, it might be a situation where this can happen again. And that's one of the reasons why the family were adamant on some kind of accountability, no matter where it came from. Either it was the federal government or it was those who were actually the perpetrators of that crime. So yeah, that is something that is still ongoing. Matter of fact, it got to a point where the government now decided that they wanted to have a discussion with the family, so they didn't want us to take the case to court. So that conversation is ongoing. We're still in the process of doing that at the moment. So for now, since it's still it's a matter of the courts, there's really nothing I can really say about that.
Yeah.
This is more or less, a judicial situation now.
Yeah, I know that. I just wanted to know if it was still ongoing or you guys decided to drop it. But I'm glad to hear that it's ongoing. So people at least could know that if such a thing happens, I can't go to court, if not in Nigeria, ECOWAS or even ICC, and get justice. And it brings me to some other thing. You were at an event some time back, and it was you saying that the declaration of June 12 as Democracy Day, my father's vision has been fulfilled even after death. It is important we understand that Nigeria belongs to all of us or none of us at all. That thing you said, it made me wonder. The fact that a day was declared as Democracy Day, June 12, does that embody the vision of your father, or is just another holiday?
Well, it's actually before this was recognized, it seemed like it was something that the powers that be wanted to just sweep under the carpet, like it just never happened. Before you can even start to understand what even happened during that time, you first have to accept that something did happen, or there was such a day, or something actually occurred on that day. So what I meant when I said that this was the start, this would have rekindled the hope in many Nigerians, is that, okay, for the first time, the government of the country is now acknowledging that role, that significant period in our democratic journey. Now that opens up a conversation. Now, is this the democracy that they died for? Is this the democracy that we want? But before you can even have that democracy of that discussion of if this is the democracy that we died for, you have to first acknowledge that there was some kind of sacrifice that led to this democracy. And then that is also it's supposed to be like a pinning moment where you're saying, okay, if we're going back and we're relating what we have today through the prism of what had happened in the past, then what steps can we take to bring that vision that they had into fruition? So it's not necessarily that it's a rule and you announce a day, it's a public holiday and it's all well and good. No. And like I always say, democracy is not a destination but a journey. How do we start to now have that conversation? How do we start to have the conversation of that was underpinned that whole election, farewell to poverty? First of all, by identifying with the people who actually came up with the idea. that opens up a room or space for people to now have that conversation of, is this the democracy that they died for? And if it's not, how can we strengthen this democracy? So I am totally of the opinion that it was a step in the right direction. Obviously, there are more steps that should be taken, and another thing is that democracy is also a two-way street. One part is the leadership, and then the other part is the followership. We need to participate in this democracy in order to actually properly declare or now request for the dividends of that democracy. If we're not actively involved in the process, we can't now we can't complain about what is being cooked in the kitchen. We have to be active when they're cutting the tomato, when they're cutting the onions, so that way when they made the food, we can now say, well, you shouldn't have put you put too much salt. But if we're not even there to even see what they were doing, then we cannot. So the most important thing about democracy is the participation and our agency in an ownership of the country itself. So I understand your question. I was basically excited that after so many years, what we know to be true is being said out loud, which is a step in direction. Because, like, for instance, if I have an illness, if I'm not ready to accept that I have an illness, then I cannot even start talking about solving the problem that I have. If I have a tumor, but I'm telling you I don't have a tumor, I have a headache. Well, I'm solving the headache. I'm not solving the real cause of the problem. We need to first identify the cause or the core of the issue, and then we can also start looking for remedies or solutions to that problem.
Talking about democracy now and the journey we've made, leadership, followership, and all that, now takes us to a point. I heard your mother saying in one of the clips, I would have played it, and if I get it ready, I'll play it for you to hear, where she was complaining that this is not what we want. Is there democracy? No, we can't have a democracy in this kind of atmosphere, talking about that time. And she referred to the fact that they were, maybe these people love power so much, they love stealing money, love putting people down. They're very insensitive, they're very this, they're very that. Virtually everything she said are the same things we are, or a lot of people are saying today about the place we found ourselves inside democracy. So I'm wondering, with all what you've seen, all the struggles that your family has gone through, Nigeria has gone through, do you think the kind of democracy we have now is any different from what she was fighting against then? The pilfering, the insensitivity, and the gagging, and so on.
Okay, well, so yes, you're totally like I said, democracy is not a destination but a journey. I think we need to put that into context. I would say that my dad was accepted across the board based on the fact that he had a message that resonated with the majority of the people. You have to understand that after the 1993 elections, we had the Abacha come back here, and there was so much trauma. Subsequent governments have promised and yet not fulfilled their promise. Instantly, you're now degrading the electorate. The citizens are now losing hope in this process itself. You see, and based on that, that's why we see what we see today. So what I'm suggesting is, before we start to castigate this government, because for me, this government is the first democratically elected government. When I mean democratically elected, as in the person who is at the helm of affairs was part of that pro-democracy democracy movement. So if that's the case, then we should be. I can rest assured that Asiwaju understands what is at stake and what we had lost and the sacrifices that were made in the past. What I am now suggesting is, how do I, as a key stakeholder in this government, because this government is partly an Abiola government as well, how can I do something, support this government towards getting to that promised land? For what I see today that might be different from other governments is that it seems like there's a concern for where Nigeria is going, and they treating the country as a company, as an organization that so there's a growing concern. I believe that past governments were basically pushing the can forward. They were not necessarily addressing the issues as when they saw it. Some of these issues that we're facing today could have been solved many years ago when dollar was at a different rate. But based on the deterioration and then just basically lackluster attitude of our leadership, you can see that it's taken so long for us to get to where we are today. So for now, I am of the opinion that if we are really if we as Nigerian people take ownership of this country, believe, or even start to even in our own individual ways, support ourselves. We have to understand that if Nigeria is going to be fixed, it will be fixed by Nigerians first. There's no need for us looking outside of the box. Everything that we need to make this country a better place, the manpower, the resources, everything is embedded with us. What we have to do is look inwards and not look outwards. Like, for instance, I can tell you that, like I said, if we are really serious about this democracy, we need to start to talk to ourselves, educate ourselves about what really matters. It cannot be that only during elections that we now vote, and then even the voter out, the voter turnout, it sends a message, even not even only domestically but also internationally. We need to come out and let our voice be heard. I believe that the more people that engage in this democratic process that we're in, the better the democracy, the systems will become, and then the more dividends of democracy will be accrued. So it's also important that we also engage with our leaders. We can't, once they're there, nobody is challenging them, nobody's questioning them. This is the reasons why we are always complaining. What we need to do is, before they get there, we need to be on their case, talking to them about what really matters to us as a people. For me, it will be the cost of food on the market, the cost of school fees, exchange rates. These are things that matter to me, and I'm sure it cuts across the spectrum. So from my point of view right now is that, yes, Nigeria might not, the democracy we're practicing might not be the exact democracy that my father and my mother would have envisioned, but notwithstanding, we that were left behind can also synergize, collaborate, and coordinate ourselves properly towards getting us to that promised land. And like I said, my father wouldn't have fixed Nigeria by himself. As a leader, your role is to sell a vision, a dream, and then it's for you to convince your people to key into that vision, and they will be the ones to drive it. So once we as Nigerians are all on that table, we will we'll be able to get to that promised land.
Okay, so we say here now that what we have now may not just be exactly how your father and mother would have envisioned it, but you see it also like an Abiola government, because Asiwaju was part of Nadeko. He worked with Abiola and had the idea of what they would have wanted. So this 1 year that we've had of Abiola, of Asiwaju being in power, if Abiola were here, for instance, what do you think he would have done differently? Or would he have done the same things?
Well, I believe that if my father was in charge today, he probably would have done pretty much the same things. Maybe the only difference might probably be in execution. But like I said, there are different ways to skin a cat. So for me, I for one would say that, Asiwaju's presidency, knowing what had happened before his time, I think basically his hands were tied. And I'm saying that from a point of view that I knew the situation before that elections and after the elections. And I knew that with the way things were going, we have to, if we're not careful, Nigeria.
Hello? Okay. I think our audio
as an entity might be on shaky ground. So yes, there were certain things that Asiwaju might have to do that if we were to look at it, we might be seeing some effects of it right now. But I would say that these things are steps that in the right direction. For instance, I'm aware of the finance minister just paying off some of the debt that we've been.
Okay, the network seems to be fluctuating, and we just lost that. Let's see if his audio will come back, or he'll be back. Is he still there? Hello? Hello, can you put it on? Let's see. Hello?
Yeah, hello?
Okay. The line disappeared. You were saying the finance minister just paid.
He has paid off some of these bad debts that we had incurred in the past regime. Science will start to, after a while, it might not take a year, might be a little too short, especially with the kind of steps that have been taken to actually assess this government. I am hopeful that in the nearest future, things will start to take shape. In the meantime, though, like I said, when you're trying to move Nigeria from where it was when the president resumed office to where he intended to go, we might have to be very diplomatic with our approach. We can't put too much on the Nigerian people. We all know the situation in the country. So the only advice, or I think the only advice my father would even reach out to say is, yes, we understand that we need to get to that. We need to move forward and we need to start doing things the right way. But then there should be a way that we communicate this progress or this changes to the Nigerian people in a timely manner. That way, it is not just as a shock, or it doesn't come up abruptly to the to basically our psyche. So it's very important. Messaging and also the timing is key in everything that we do, especially when it comes to government policy. I'll say that that might be the only thing that my father would be talking about. Maybe just maybe, and my father was also a socialist. Ashwaji is a capitalist through and through. My father was he was a partly capitalist, but mostly a socialist. So I'm sure my father would have looked at ways of maybe reducing some of the
the suffering. Say the way it is. Some of the suffering. Mumuni say it's the suffering.
You can do it in stages. You can do it in stages.
Well, you see, you are not a real politician. You just went through like this. I'm sure in your heart you wanted to say to reduce the suffering, but you now went round around the garden like a teddy bear. But because with what we know about your father, the man who was a great philanthropist and all that, I'm sure he didn't want to see people suffering as much as people are suffering now. And if I'm to find out from you now, is it because Asiwaju was part of NADECO, worked with Kudirat, worked with Moshood, Abiola and all that? Is that why you joined APC? Because one will be wondering, a young person like this who's looking for so much change, who wants the journey to change, journey to democracy. We've had the same people practically running this journey to democracy and we're still where we are. And I was wondering at a point that, wouldn't it have been better he was with a neutral party like Labour Party or any other party like your brother who was in another party other than these two that practically brought us to the point where we are now? So is it the NADECO thing that took you where you are?
Well, actually, you have to understand that my mom was a key member of the NADECO movement, and Asiwaju was basically, after my mom's demise, Asiwaju took over the leadership. For me, it's very simple. The way I look at it is that, if you have noticed in that, when I got back to Nigeria in 2007, and thereabouts, it was only the Southwest states that were talking about June 12. It was Southwest. They took it upon themselves, and during that time, I think it was AG then ACN. They were progressives. My father was always a progressive first. See, so I'm a progressive. So I identified with their mantra. Now, that is not to say that steps that were done, the things that were done are actually in line with the progressive tendency, but that is the internal party matter. We within the party can discuss these matters and come up with better strategies to alleviating these pressures on our people. So yes, I believe that from within this APC party, I believe that I can do more because I have most of my relationships built. If I'm going to make any kind of change, I can make a lasting change through. And most of the members that you find that are in APC were once SDP members who then turned to AD. So these people were also part of that journey. They would know, they understand the significance of this democracy that we have. So it's imperative for me to, first of all, seek out like-minded people who are, proclaiming the same thing that I would identify with. This is progressiveness, inclusion, true Democrats, not a military man turned Democrat the next day. This is somebody who was a Democrat from source. So this is why I have been a progressive. So it didn't really matter the name of the party as long as they were proclaiming progressive tendencies. That was what it was important to me. So if there's any way I can, help promote that vision, I am there.
Okay, let's take a little pause and let's hear your mom say something from way back. And some of the reactions here are from having listened to a speech by Abacha at that point in time, and your dad was still incarcerated. I'm sure you've seen this clip several times, but some people haven't heard or seen this clip. So let's quickly play it and then we'll wrap this up.
from what I heard General Sani Abacha have said in the broadcast this morning, my anxiety, my principal anxiety is General Sani Abacha in various pronouncements said Bashono, M.K.O, Abiola before the trial starts. There were 2 instances where he came onto the air and said Bashono, M.K.O, Abiola has committed treason, and the case is still pending in the court. So I believe that that General Sani Abacha is the prosecutor, the jury, and is the judge. That has always been my fear, that the judiciary in this country has been stampeded by the dictators that impose on themselves on us as our leaders and rulers. So whatever comes out of the judiciary, I know is not going to be the truth, because I'm more worried as a woman watching General Sani Abacha telling lies, deceit to fellow Nigerians as if we are foreigners. I am sad and worried.
Even as at that time, she complained about the judiciary, and a lot of people are complaining about the judiciary right now, believing that they are part of our major problem. And INEC, the judiciary, they are giving a lot of people heart issues in court. People do not want to come out to vote anymore and all that. And you see Kudirat Abiola there also complaining about the judiciary. Abdul, to you, how do you think we can solve this issue from then till now? The role of the judiciary in our electoral process, in our democracy and all that. How can we make it better? And are you very happy with the judiciary right now?
Well, obviously, like you mentioned, there's some question marks when it comes to the judiciary. I, for one, since I'm not a lawyer, I don't think I should be having this. I should talk about any part of the judiciary. But what I can say is that the judiciary is a key part of any democracy. You know, and then it's also been said that the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. You know, it's important that they understand the role, the constitutional role that they have to play. I think one of the issues that we might have in Nigeria is the fact that, you know, something like a judge should not necessarily have to pander to a governor just to get what is rightfully allocated to them. This thing should be done from a different organization that doesn't necessarily have to even get permission from any executive member. You see, there's separation of powers are there for a purpose. You know, it's there to check, you know, the excesses of any one arm of government. So the legislative have a role to play. You know, we need to make sure that the judiciary is independent enough to just interpret the constitution the way they see it, you know, and I think it's important that they take that role very seriously. My mom was complaining about them, but you know, at the time she was complaining about them, they probably had a gun pointed at their heads. Now it's a totally different situation. Now, I don't know exactly what's
maybe now it's a bank that's pointed at their head. A bank.
I'm not aware of what is being pointed at them now that is causing this issue, but I'm sure that, you know, they are learned members of the judiciary who are also looking into this matter very seriously. And I also think that sometimes when we want to discuss, you know, these institutions, we have to understand that we're all Nigerians to begin with. So it's the people that are that are sitting on that bench are Nigerians too. So once, like I said, we all take ownership of this country, then the judiciary will do their job, the legislature will do their job, the executive will do and the citizenry, which is the fourth realm. I think the citizenry is the fourth, and then the judiciary is the fifth. So yeah, so everybody, I know the media is the fifth. So I think everybody needs to take up their own responsibility, and once that is done, you know, we will start to get the dividends of democracy that we all are hoping and wishing for.
All right, finally, you see that particular thing she said that I paraphrased. I have the sound and the clip now. Let's hear her.
Well, for 1 year now, the head of the junta, General Sani Abacha, has refused me seeing him. Well, for 1 year now, the head of the junta, General Sani Abacha, has refused me seeing him. They hide under the ploy that I have a case to answer with the police. And also,
All right, we missed that one. I will see how we can do that. Maybe after you, I can still play it because I like people to hear directly. So finally, Abdul Mumini, let's find out. How do you feel after said and done, 28 years after the passing of your mother and all the struggles? Do you think, I know you mentioned something like this in the midst of what you were saying, but I'd like you to take some time now to tell us, do you feel it has been worth it? Do you feel that losing your father and mother for a country like Nigeria and seeing how things are playing out, was it something that they should have even bothered themselves with?
Of course. So much is given, much is expected. You know, my father understood that he needed to
sorry,
give back to the country.
Abdul, could you move back, sit back a little bit because okay right, thanks. Because you know we can see you, so move back a little. Yeah. All right, great, thank you.
So yes, you know, my father was a strong believer in Nigeria and the potential of this such a young country at the time. You know, like I told you, he was poor and he became rich, and he made that money from Nigeria. He believed in the future of this country, and I don't think that, you know, any sacrifice is too much for your country. You know, I don't think so. And I think that they didn't just, you know, sacrifice their lives for just anything. They sacrificed their lives for the future of the nation. You know, they understood that, look, for a country of at the time maybe 100 and something million people, the only way that we could move forward is if we all discuss the issues in a civil manner and not, you know, behind the barrel, or, you know, not being threatened or anything. We need to come together as one people and discuss the issues. So yes, the sacrifice I believe was worth it. Every step, every challenge I've ever been through, I'm always proud of the decisions they made during that time. You know, I've been in Nigeria now for the past maybe 15 years. And every day I'm just blessed. I believe that the country is blessed. I meet new people. I connect with my fellow Nigerian brothers and sisters who are doing amazing things, both in Nigeria and across the globe. I believe that there's really no sacrifice that is too much for a country that has given you everything. This is my home. This is all I know. And I'm privileged to even be a son of some people who were willing to take a step, especially at the time when they did. Because, you know, if you know anything about Abiola, there was no need for him to put his whole empire at stake for a nation. But he realized that, look, his empire is nothing if the nation is not moving forward. You know, so I'm of the same vision that Nigeria is only as good as the poorest of us. If we are all accounted for, then we will all be, you know, it'll be Eldorado. It will be so funny if we all were just to look at each other as one family, and you see how good and how peaceful a nation we can be.
You know, funny enough, we both use the same word because somewhere I had it written down here. Will we ever get to El Dorado? And I think right now El Dorado is a bit foul, and Arik cannot take us there right now. We'll have to work a lot harder to get there. On the last note, somebody said I should ask you if you think that your party, APC, can give us the type of judiciary that we truly want and should have.
I believe His Excellency we're working towards that direction. You know, like I said, you know, see, the thing about democracy is, like I said, it's fluid. If we're having any issues, we need to engage. I would encourage the party and the leadership to look within the party, and if they can still, and you know, to see if there are other hands that can be put onto to become brought on board towards, you know, moving us forward. You know, we're talking about the judiciary. The first person that will come to my mind when we're talking about judiciary would be maybe the likes of Babatunde Fashola is a former Excellency of Lagos State and the former minister, and even the vice president was also a son. These are people who are like the law is what they breathe. So if we're talking about strengthening that, we can incorporate some of them. And then also the president, as the president of the country, does not necessarily only have to look at APC members for advice. He can also seek his citizens, who can be Peter Obi from the Labour Party, or it could be His Excellency Atiku Abubakar from the PDP party. He can reach out to them, because as the president, he can reach out to any of his citizens to seek advice or support, and it doesn't take anything away from him. So, like I said, once the elections are over, you become the president of the whole country. You are not just the president of your party. So I'm sure Mr. President is doing all he needs to do towards making getting us there. And we have to also understand that we're always calling Mr. President. We have state governors that need to take account for their own role and take stewardship for their own area. We have House of Reps members that can also come to play. And then and at the same time, we have the citizenry who can also make their feelings and their objections heard. And that is the only way this government, this election, and or this country, or the idea of Nigeria can come to that hopeful or renewed hope ideal that we are all hoping for.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Now let's hear that voice. I wanted us to hear it together before you leave.
There cannot be democracy. Okay. How do you think there will be democracy? There cannot be democracy under this atmosphere. Election now is now being tried for treason. There's no way they can be. They are just deceiving themselves. Instead of them to tell us that they have enjoyed this power so much, they have stolen our money so much that they want to keep ruling for as long as they live. And we will then take our fate, that maybe that is how God has destined us. But instead of them saying that, they will now go on to the air for empty propaganda and deceit that will lead this country nowhere than ruins.
You heard that, right?
Yes, I did.
Yes, I did. And that was a strong woman. And I'm hoping that more women will stand up and face you guys, because we need to face you men. Because you men are the ones who are covering Nigeria right now. We need to face you guys very, very much. And I'm sure you're very proud of her. Every day you think of her. A lot of us are very proud of her too. And we thank on her behalf. I want to say accept our thanks for all the work. And I want to believe that Nigeria will get to a point where we'll say finally Uhuru. But I've asked you one last. This is the truly last question for today. Do you think democracy can truly thrive in Nigeria? Because some people are asking for, let us go to the regional, let's do this, let's do that. Do you think democracy can truly thrive in Nigeria?
Well, first of all, I think democracy is the best form of governance, hands down. The majority have their say, the minority gets, the majority have their say, their way, and the majority gets to have their say. It's important that we include enough more people, and that's the only way democracy will work. More people need to get engaged, need to be informed, need to participate, and then we can now request for the dividends of democracy. Now, I am not saying that this democracy will be the one like they have in America. Democracy, like I said, is not like there's not one definition for democracy. We have to look for the democracy that actually fits our own peculiar needs. And I think once we start to have that conversation, we will start to adapt this democracy towards fitting our needs.
So do you want to be a president one day?
Well, if my people call me to serve, I don't know how I can.
I'm calling you now. I've called you.
Then inshallah, at the right time, and with the support of my party, I'll make my intentions clear.
Thank you very much for your time. And as we celebrate your mother today, 28 years after, wishing you, your family members, and the whole of Nigeria the very best. I've been speaking with Abdul Mumuni Abiola, son of late Kudirat Abiola and Moshood Abiola, both icons who went down for or during the struggle of democracy in Nigeria. We wish you the very best, and when it's time to start the campaign, call me and I will help you.
Thank you, madam. You have a nice day.
You have a nice day too. Take care. All right. Okay, Joseph. It's not just the two of us.
It was a wonderful one. I think I pick a lot of things from there. First, let me say that I do try seriously, because if it's just some people, they will never cross the shore of this country again.
To come back here, right?
They will never come back here again. So he actually tried for him coming back. I know of the family of the former governor of Bende State, Professor Ambrose Folorunshor Ali. In fact, you take the grace of God for his people after when your father didn't commit any offense, and then he was incarcerated for offense. You know, just later they now found out that the child were not did not actually commit those offenses.
It was
the children were seriously annoyed with that kind of action. So, but in this very case, it's not even incarceration. This was a total eliminating both a father and a mother. Some people will cross the shore and just they may not even say that they are from Africa anymore. You understand? So I actually envy the courage of the Abiola family, as many of them are still coming around, making a lot of input on how this nation can move forward. Even one of the sons is called he make attempt, I think up to 2 or 3 times, to say, okay, let me try and give a slot. Yeah, to become president of Nigeria. The sister, I work with, I think, government, Ogun State government and all that. So I think the courage I actually possibly envy the courage for them to. It means that they strongly believe in this country, and the system should equally encourage and support them. And some of those issues, the question they are asking, there's nothing wrong if the government can just quickly answer those questions like yesterday. And equally make it known to us that his father is we consider the plight of people. That shows that, are you a Senate president, are you a governor, are you a president, are you a House of Rep member? Consider the plight of people. This money, for you to buy fuel currently, is very, very difficult. Many physicians are not selling for a CQ back again. And these are things that...
are they even supposed to be selling? Are we not on strike?
But you need something to help the strike to be very, very efficient and effective. And you need that movement. So I think our leaders or rulers, they should just sit down and ask, how would they give account of themselves one day? Which side of the history of Nigeria would they belong to if we continue to have in excess, but we are suffering seriously just because of the greed of some individual? It is not normal at all. So in the spirit of June 12th, or the family of Abiola, I think it is time for the leaders should sit down and do the needful for Nigeria. Don't have any business in suffering at all. We have, is it weather? Is it mineral resources? Is this the only disaster we have in Nigeria is human disaster?
I tell you.
You understand it? Other countries think of the hurricane, earthquake, but our own
human king
is human king.
Human king.
Or human earthquake.
Human fool, not typhoon or leader fool.
So it is time for us to
Sumani. I want is Sunmani. Man.
Okay.
Man, they are the ones.
But there are some women that are
man. God made man, male and female, made he them.
Okay.
Man represents men and women. So it's Sumani.
Okay.
Killing ourselves.
So it is time for us to just stop that. Let's stop all this.
Okay, let's take a quick breather while we get set with our next guest joining us from Abuja also. And we'll be looking at the blue economy, something very crucial to talk about. Stay with us.